Well, hi there, and welcome back to Reflections and Real Talk. I'm your host, Judy, and today I'm going to talk about the first financial decision you should ask yourself. How far in advance should you start planning for retirement? If you think the answer is in your 50s, you'll be far too late in the game. The fact is, the sooner you start, the better off you'll be. So let's break it down by age, whether you're just getting started in your first job in your teens or your 20s, solidifying your plans in your 30s and your 40s, checking in on progress in your 50s, or getting serious in those final 5 years before retirement. What are some habits that you can establish to set up yourself for retirement as early as possible? And what are major milestones at every decade to make sure you're on track? How does time work in your favor with the power of compounding? Your very first job is the perfect time to start your retirement journey. It's easy to get caught up in the hectic schedule of work before you ask yourself the most important question: what do I want my working life to look like? How many years do I want to work? What kind of lifestyle do I want to have? My father always reminded me, those who fail to plan to fail. And the most important plan you'll ever make is for your own life's journey, including work and retirement. It's quite common to start working without ever stopping to plan what you want your life's vision to be. If you're in survival mode, just living paycheck to paycheck, it doesn't even seem like an important thing to think about, but it is. Because hopefully one day in the future, you won't be in survival mode anymore, and by then you'll have lost critical time that you might not be able to get back. Take a day and sit and think and pause about how you envision your life. Don't be afraid to dream big. Anything is possible. I've always felt that the human mind can be programmed like a self-guided missile. What you think about most of the time is what you become. I know this is a cliche, but if you implant an idea in your mind and you can see it happen, you can obtain it. If you have something you want to achieve, put a picture of it on the wall and you'll think about it all the time and you'll be propelled forward in that direction. And while working as a real estate agent, I desired a particular vehicle. I put a picture of it on my wall and 4 months later I owned the car. I had a picture of a house on my wall for 4 years in my apartment, and I woke up one day to find I was living in that house. If you're living with or associating with people that are negative or dream killers, stop spending so much time with them. And when you start your very first job, the thrill of receiving your first paycheck is probably the only thing on your mind, and saving for the future is the last thing on your mind. Even a small job in high school, such as working at an ice cream shop or bussing tables, is a great opportunity to start establishing a strong savings habit. Learn to pay yourself first and only spend money on things you have already earned the cash for. Maybe you want to save for your first car or start a first Roth IRA. When you're in your teens or early 20s, retirement feels like a lifetime away, and you might think you have plenty of time ahead to start saving later. But this can be a mistake that will cost you hundreds and thousands of dollars in the future. So unless you need the money for living expenses and essentials, the best time to build a strong foundation is when you're only working for discretionary income. And even if you're working to meet basic needs, put a tiny bit aside if you can. Just get started making savings a habit for a lifetime. And if you don't start saving on a regular basis, you'll never be prepared for life's curveballs that inevitably come up. You'll be a slave to working until you're old and tired. Let the power of compound interest work its magic for you. Even $50 a month in your 20s can grow exponentially by retirement age. Let's look at some examples of the difference in savings in your 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s, and how a decade can make or break your retirement strategy. Let that power of compounding work for you. Here's how much you could save if you started early in your 20s, and look how much more you'll need to save if you wait until your 30s or 40s. So in this article from MSN, the median annual income for full-time workers aged 25 to 34 was $59,000, and after-tax earnings would be around $45,000. And financial planners typically recommend saving 20% of after-tax earnings, meaning that median young adult should save around $9,000 per year or $750 a month. So keep that number in mind. So we're going to use that for our calculator. All right, so the calculator that I'm using today is by investor.gov, provided by the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, and I'll drop a link in the description below so you can play with it yourself. And let's just start out with $1,000 initial contribution. And then remember that 750 number. So I'm going to put 750 a month. We're going to start out with 40 years, assuming you start contributing in your 20s and you stop in your 60s. And let's put in 7%. Now we could play with this interest rate variance, but just for comparison's sake, let's leave that at 0. And we're going to compound monthly and hit calculate. And so scrolling down here, you'll see in 40 years, you'll have just under $2 million, 1.984. And on the graph below, you can see your contributions have totaled $361,000. And the future value of that is 1.984, as I said. So let's go back and change that. Let's assume you didn't start contributing in your 20s, but you waited till you were 30. So from 30 to 60, everything's the same. Let's calculate. And we have $923,000. So we lost $1 million in a decade. Now let's go back and change that to 20 years and calculate. And now we're at 394,000. And again, here's your total contributions, which pretty much doubled, a little bit more than doubled from 181 to 394. And now let's just look at a 10-year saving strategy. And it drops down to 131. So from 91,000 in contributions to 131, so it's not doubled. And that really drives home the power of compounding. So again, just looking really quickly at the 40 years, and you look at the spread between the blue line and the red line, you can really see how your contributions grow if you start earlier. And catching up in your 50s makes it harder and harder. Your 20s is the time to set the foundation of your life, building your skills and your financial future. And pivotal to a retirement savings plan is managing credit. When you do qualify for your first credit card, it's important to pay off the card every month in full. Falling into the trap of maintaining a balance only makes someone else richer, and it's not you. If you pay $100 for an item and pay 20% interest on it, you're paying $120 for that item. Now tell me where I can make 20% on money, because I'd like to sign up for that investment. Pay credit card balances off every single month, and there's something psychologically slippery about using credit card that doesn't make you feel the pinch of the real cost. In general, stay away from credit cards. They're a trap that will rob you of your financial future. And once you start a job that offers a retirement plan, such as a 401k, start contributing as soon as you can, even if it's a little bit. And if it's a Roth IRA, even better. Later on, as your income increases, you hit income restrictions. Contributing to a Roth IRA when your income and tax rates are lower is a great opportunity to save post-tax money now that you can withdraw tax-free in retirement. Even small contributions to a retirement account like a 401k or an IRA can make a huge difference over time. And if your employer offers a match, take it. That's free money. I went to a hair salon the other day and I asked the hairdresser if she had a retirement plan as part of her employment, and she said, "I think so, but I'm not sure." Take the time to learn about any retirement plan that's offered to you in any job you have. If you have access to a company retirement plan, make sure you learn about the different funds that are available. Please watch my video on expense ratios and choose carefully, because choosing the wrong ones can also rob you of hundreds and thousands of dollars. I'll put a link in the description below and on the screen as well. And now, if you're smart enough to start contributing, once you put money in your 401k early in your 20s or other retirement funds, think of it as untouchable. Unless you have a life-threatening illness requiring cash, don't pull it out to buy a house or to borrow for other things you should have saved for, like a car, a vacation, or a wedding. Live within your means, and if you think it's easy to repay money that you've saved for over years in a retirement account, you're kidding yourself. You will be sabotaging your retirement plan. A friend of mine who worked as a financial advisor for her entire 45-year career told me that she saw a mistake people make far too often: dipping into the retirement savings for emergencies. I get it, life happens, but pulling money out of your 401k or IRA early can derail your retirement plans. Instead, build a separate emergency fund with 3 to 6 months of expenses. It's important to have a separate account with money for anything that might come up. And once you have your emergency fund, you can start a discretionary fund for things that you know you're going to need throughout the year. Think car maintenance, a vacation, luxury item, or gifts. Saving for the future versus paying down a credit card, which usually involves paying extra interest charges, results in paying more than the item costs. This is a bad habit that will continue to erode your savings over time. So what are specific goals you can aim for in your 20s? Check in periodically with your savings plan. Whenever you get a raise, save a little bit more. If you get a surprise check, save a percentage of that check. And if you've been saving $50 a month, you probably need to step it up quite a bit now and at least save 10% of your salary, perhaps $500 or $750 a month. The biggest mistake you can make is to spend more as you make more. It's tempting, but lifestyle creep is the start of a big trap that locks you into working paycheck to paycheck. When you're young and feel broke, it's easy to want to spend every penny you have. But don't con yourself into thinking rewarding yourself is the norm. Treat yourself to a nice meal or a small reward for your accomplishment, but live within your means and only spend the money you have earned. Get in the habit and pay yourself first by savings. And don't rely on your aging parents for money. They need to save for their own retirement. As an adult, you're responsible for yourself now, and if they want to gift you something, that's one thing. But don't expect them to pay your bills like cell phone or insurance bills forever. And make sure you have health insurance coverage as well, because if a health issue comes up, and they do at all ages, you need to have coverage for that. And if your parents have to pay for healthcare expenses without insurance, that could wipe out their retirement savings altogether, which isn't fair for them. And after all, if they can't save for their own retirement, they're going to end up relying on you in the future, and you'll definitely be sorry about that. Retirement is the only thing in life you can never get a loan for. So if you find yourself in your mid-20s working at a job that doesn't meet basic expenses, you might want to rethink your career choices. For example, if you're only making $800 a month driving for Uber, that's not enough to pay rent, food, and the basic necessities you need to live on. If your current career is temporary while you're going to school, that's a different story. But by your mid-20s, you should have the ability to support yourself. This country was built on hard work and thrift, and unfortunately, it has drifted into a mentality of living for today. Borrowing from the future, as you can see, that's not really working out for individuals or our country's national debt overall. This generation needs to go back to basics and have the fundamentals that built this great country. Unfortunately, the get-rich-quick schemes have pervaded the mentality of our youth, tricking them into thinking they don't have to work, and that's just not true. Now let's move on to the next decade, the 30s. Assuming you've followed a good saving strategy and are saving regularly and investing, now you're ready for the next step. Review your savings on an annual basis, and every 5 years at a minimum, you'll want to review your retirement plan as a whole. When you're doing your review, look at your balances, your asset allocations, and your lifestyle. And take a pause to really give some thought as to what you want out of your life. Do you want to work until you're 65 or 70 full-time? Are there other lifestyle modifications you could make to simplify your life? Do you need the latest iPhone? Do you need designer clothes? Don't let yourself fall into the trap of keeping up with the latest trends at the expense of being trapped into working for a paycheck. There's nothing wrong with working and earning a good living, but if your cost of living is rising as fast as your paycheck and you forget to save, you will look back and regret it when you have nothing to show but long forgotten stuff. The rush of buying something new and that dopamine hit will not compare to being able to see your savings grow over time, knowing that you are buying financial freedom for your future. It's amazing when you're not living paycheck to paycheck and forced to work, how your attitude will shift from having to work to enjoying your work. That's financial freedom. And you can tell when people are working just because they need the money and they hate their job. It's an awful way to live your life. Contributing to society by putting passion into your job can be one of life's most fulfilling rewards. Money can be a trap or a ticket to freedom. It's your choice. There may come a time when you need a break from work, and if you have enough saved, you might be able to afford that. Or if you want to change careers, it's nice to have a cushion to fall back on while you're going back to school or starting a new business or starting a family. Life is not usually a straight line from working to retirement. Oftentimes it's a zigzag, so be prepared for the zig and the zags by saving in multiple buckets. And if you have a partner in your life where you are financially intertwined, make sure you incorporate open, honest discussions with them as well, because planning well yourself but neglecting to involve your partner can dramatically impact long-term financial outlook as well. For a more in-depth review of love and finances, watch this other video. I'll put a link in the description below and on the screen as well. Check in at every decade. Have a serious review when you reach major milestones. Around your 40th birthday, ask yourself, am I on track to reach my goals? Am I on the right track, or do I need to shift directions altogether? Maybe that career you wanted all your life didn't turn out to be what you thought it was. Maybe you don't like sitting at a desk all day indoors. Maybe it's time to shake it up and go in a different direction. Ask yourself, can you afford to make that shift? But even if you find yourself in a career that's steady and you love what you do, you might need to review your financial situation. Is your paycheck still just covering your expenses? What is the return on investments in your various accounts? Can you save more? Can you spend less? Okay, so now you've stayed the course and worked hard, saved, invested, and now you find yourself in your 50s. Check in. Do you need to change your strategy? Has the economy changed? Can you improve your financial literacy? Are you taking too many chances? Or maybe not enough? Do you need to diversify? Perhaps you can expand your investments outside of traditional financial markets. Maybe you just want to buy an investment property. Maybe you want to invest in yourself and get some additional credentials that will help you earn more and stay relevant in the competitive marketplace. Don't forget to take a pause along life's journey and ask yourself these questions. And maybe you have hundreds of hours of vacation saved up. Now might be the time to take it and enjoy life. If you leave a job and your company pays you out on vacation, you might be surprised that Uncle Sam takes a huge chunk out of that big check. Sometimes life goes along pretty fast. It's important to stop, think, reflect, and have a real talk with yourself. And if you're involved in a partnership or even your children, have these important conversations with them as well. As you reach your 60s, you might think you have the opportunity to work until you're 65 or beyond, and sometimes workers are fortunate enough to work until they choose to stop on their own timeline, but sometimes health issues get in the way, forcing early retirement. If you lose your job later in life, it may not be as easy to get another job in the same career or at the same pay rate. So be prepared and have adequate funds set aside in case you get downsized or let go. Now you're in your final stretch in your 60s. You're still young and sharp enough. Perhaps you're working at your highest salary earnings. Take advantage of any catch-up contributions that are available to save money for retirement. Now might be the time to throw your hat in the ring for that promotion you know you're capable of. After all, you have the experience to take on more responsibility. 5 years before retirement, it's time to get serious about retirement planning. All right, so you've been saving and checking in along the way, great. But once you've hit that 5-year mark before retirement, it's time to really get serious, because this is when the transition from simply saving money to making sure your money will actually work for you in retirement is critical. Here's a short checklist with some pre-retirement items that you'll need to review. Estimate your retirement income, which includes Social Security, pensions, and savings. Determine if you'll stop working altogether or work part-time. Calculate your expected expenses in retirement. Pay down or eliminate debt. Consider long-term care and healthcare costs. Decide when you'll want to claim Social Security for maximum benefits. One of the biggest mistakes people make is underestimating their expenses. Will you still have a mortgage? Don't forget to watch my other video on how to pay off your mortgage early. I'll put a link in the description below and on the screen above as well. What about healthcare? Medicare is not free, and there are several options, including supplemental plans. Budgeting for healthcare and retirement is a critical part of retirement. And don't forget, retirement isn't just about surviving, it's about enjoying life. So make sure your plan supports the lifestyle you want. Anybody can whittle their budget down to the bare bones, but no one should have to live on rice and beans after working for a lifetime. It's important to understand the minimum you can live on, but it's also important to calculate the maximum you would like to live on. Try to imagine a life where you can do what you want to do, whether that's home improvement projects, travel, or helping family members out financially, or charitable giving. Try to make a budget that has wiggle room for extras, and make a contingency plan if the market retracts and you need to tighten your budget for several years until it recovers. Remember, in the early years of retirement, you'll want to spend more when you are physically able to enjoy activities, so plan accordingly. If your dream is to visit the Vatican or the Colosseum or Versailles, do it sooner rather than later, since trips like that involve lots of walking. So you'll want to do it when you have the physical stamina. The best time to start is now. So how many years in advance should you start planning for retirement? The simple answer, as early as possible. But no matter where you are today, whether you're just starting out, checking in on your progress, or 5 years away from retirement, what matters most is that you take action. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you'll never miss out on a more real talk about financial freedom and retirement planning. And drop a comment below. How far along are you in your retirement journey? Let's keep the conversation going.